Hey everyone, so today's video is going to be another little declutter. Now I'm not going to actually be going through my collection with you. I just picked out some products from my collection, or really went through my collection and found some products that I just wasn't using that I really wouldn't notice if they were not in my collection, and I know other people can get more use out of them than I would, so I feel like they're just not worth having in my collection or keeping them because I know I just never really reach for them. So these are just a few products that I will be decluttering, and I've recently done a lot of decluttering. About a month ago, I ended my whole collection decluttering series, or probably a couple months ago at this point, but I have had these products ready to declutter, kind of just sitting here waiting to film this video. So let's just go ahead and get into the products. So the first one is a blush, and I have just way too many blushes in my collection. I am not able to get use out of all of them. So this is one of the Essence Satin Touch blushes, and it is in the shade Satin Coral. I believe this was recently in a Shop My Stash, and I also have another shade in this called Satin Love, which I just prefer, and I will be more likely to reach for that one over this one. So this one just doesn't get enough love in my collection. It is a really great blush, especially for the drugstore. This is probably, I think, like only $3 or $4. And I really love this blush. I just have another shade in it that I am more likely to reach for and will get more use out of than this one. I just feel like I haven't reached for this enough, and I won't reach for it if I keep it in my collection. Now I have a couple lip products. One of them is a gloss from ColourPop, and I was kind of just keeping this because I didn't really have any other like red gloss like this, but I find that I just never ever reach for this. Like, this is a product that you keep to reach for. You're like, oh, I'll reach for that one day, and you use it like one day out of the entire year. This is in the shade Imaginarium. It is a really pretty gloss from ColourPop. I don't know if this is still available. I feel like I have used a good amount of it, but I don't remember using this very much. I feel like it is like about down to here, so I could potentially pan this, but I just have way too many glosses in my collection, and a red gloss like this, I'm just not gonna reach for. Like I said, this is a product that you reach for like once a year, but you keep it in your collection because you tell yourself you're gonna reach for it. So this one, it's also super old, and I think it's just time to get rid of this. Then I have one lip liner. I do have quite a few lip liners in my collection, and I feel like I just don't rotate through them enough, especially when I'm panning a lip liner. I tend to only use the lip liner that I am panning. So this is from ColourPop. It's in the shade Avi, and this liner is just too dark. I feel like I don't end up reaching for this because it is so dark, and I don't like really deep lip liners, even though like lip liners are meant to add dimension to the lips. But just on my skin tone, this is not my favorite lip liner. It's just way too dark for me, and if I do wear this, I end up wearing it like really sheared out. So I feel like someone else will get a lot more use out of me than this. That made no sense. I feel like someone else will get a lot more use out of this than I will. And then I have another ColourPop product. This is their cream gel liner. This is super old. It's in the shade No Shame, and you guys know I just never wear eyeliner. This is like a deep purple, almost black shade, and I've had this in my collection for a really long time, like since I first got into makeup. So I think it's just time to say goodbye to this because I never wear eyeliner. And after I declutter this one, I will only have one eyeliner left in my collection, and it is the Appeal forest green liner, which I actually really like if I am going to wear a liner. So that's going to be the only liner left in my collection, and I'm really happy with that. I'd be happy if I had no liners, but I don't want to just declutter that. I'd rather actually use it, and I do enjoy using that. So I will keep that one in my collection, but this one is just way too old and I never reach for it. Next, getting into some eyeshadows. This is another product from ColourPop. This is part of the Kathleen Lights collection, and it is one of their loose pigments in the shade The Twins, and it's just like a really bronzy shade, which I feel like is not super unique. I can reach for like any bronzy eyeshadow with a lot less mess and hassle, especially because this is a loose pigment. So I feel like I'm just way more likely to reach into one of my eyeshadow palettes for a bronzy shade like this. I feel like I'm never really gonna reach for this loose pigment, and I do have two other shades of these pigments in my collection still that I'm more likely to reach for, so I am going to get rid of this one. And then we have a single shadow from Ace Beauté, and this is one of their glimmer shadows in the shade Cotton Candy. I got two of these in a BoxyCharm. It was a little duo. The other shade is Ice Latte, and it's more of a bronzy shade. These are like exactly the same formula as the ColourPop Super Shock shadows, and this is just like a pinky gold shade, which it's pretty bright on the lids. I feel like I just don't reach for this one as much as the other Ace Beauté single shadow that I have. So I will be decluttering this one. I'm still keeping the other bronzy shade that I have. I just feel like I don't reach for this one enough, and someone else will get more use out of it than me, so I will be decluttering this. And then what I think is the most fun part, and actually the reason why I kind of ended up decluttering more products in the first place, is my eyeshadow palettes. So first of all, another ColourPop product. I don't purchase from ColourPop, so that's also why I'm hesitant to keep their products, and it's kind of easy for me to declutter them. And I'm not just decluttering to declutter them. I still have other ColourPop products in my collection and a lot of other ColourPop products in my collection, but this is the Lilac You A Lot palette, and obviously it's a bunch of lilac purpley tones. I did really enjoy this when I first got it. I feel like I just don't reach for it, and obviously this is like a very, very specific type of look you will get out of here, and I feel like every look you do with this kind of turns out the same, obviously because it is a monochromatic palette. Also, these metallic shades are just not my favorite formula. I feel like the ColourPop formula is very hyped up, and it's not really worth the hype because I don't really love the formula of this. I find the purples in this can be a little bit patchy, and the shimmers just don't give that shimmery metallic payoff that I like in my metallic shadows. So I know I'm just not going to reach for this, and I have other purple single shadows in my collection as well that I'd prefer to reach for over this. And if I were reaching for a purple palette, I'd reach for my purple singles, not this palette. So I will be decluttering this one. Next is a palette that I kind of have been debating whether or not to declutter, and I didn't see it staying in my collection for a really long time anyways. This is the BH Cosmetics and Shan XO palette, and this is really, really old. It's not available anymore. So one side is a 9 pan eyeshadow palette, which these are good quality shadows. I do like the BH Cosmetics shadows, and there's nothing wrong with this palette. I do like the formula. Obviously, these are just like everyday shades that I have a ton of times over in other eyeshadow palettes in my collection. So that's one reason I'm getting rid of it. The other side is also a 9 pan lipstick palette, and I was using these as cream blushes before when I didn't really have many cream blushes in my collection, and I sort of just use this to substitute for those cream blushes until I was able to purchase them, because I am on a no buy, or I was on a no buy / low buy. You can go watch my low buy or no buy series. I have a playlist with all of those videos if you are interested in that. But I was just kind of using this as a supplement until I brought some more cream blushes into my collection. So these are obviously lipsticks. They're not meant to be used on the cheeks, but I found that they worked perfectly fine. And this gave me all of the color options that I wanted. But I did recently purchase some Salt New York cream blushes. So I find that I'm not going to reach for these because I have more cream blushes in my collection now. So I will be decluttering this. Also, this is probably like grossly old, so that's another reason I'm decluttering it. And then the last declutter that I was kind of surprised but also not surprised. This is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette. This is the original palette, the original formula. There was a whole thing, they changed the formula of this palette. So this exact palette is technically not available anymore, but I do really love the formula of these shadows. Obviously, it's a huge palette with a bunch of redundant shades, so that is the main reason I'm decluttering it. I have all of these neutral sort of shades over and over again in other palettes in my collection, so I find that I'm just not going to reach for this because it is so big. I tend not to reach for huge palettes, and this was the biggest palette in my collection, so I found that I just never really reached for it unless it was in a project. And even though I do really love the formula of this and a lot of the shades in here, it's obviously just like a neutral palette with kind of these pops of colors that I never used anyways, so I find that this is just going to waste in my collection because I'm not using it, and I'm sure someone else would love to have this in their collection. So I will be decluttering this one. It's just like not my favorite palette because it is so large, and I don't purchase from Morphe anymore. And that is it for all of the products that I found in my collection that I just really wasn't using that can go to a better home. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. And I do post new videos about 3 times a week, so if you want to see more from me, also make sure to subscribe and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.